Hi. Little known fact, I hold the world record for the fastest time that anybody... I'll come back to that at the end of the video, which today is sponsored by the good people at Plum. More on both those very shortly. If there's one thing that continues to fall into my net of interesting things, it's quirky transport history. It's the things that the engineers of the time 2 centuries ago came up with to navigate their way through the country. The things that they invented to navigate their way through the terrain that was truly cutting edge for the technology of their time. Today's video really conjures up that image perfectly. It really shows how they pushed the envelope. Who wrote this script? Sorry, it underlines how the engineers of the time really pushed the limitations of their knowledge, the engineering knowledge at the time. Today's short walk will see us enter Devizes from the east side, Devizes in Wiltshire. First of all, we've got to navigate this. This is the 500-yard Bruce Tunnel. Now, it doesn't have a towpath as such, so we're going to have to navigate our way over the top. It was opened in 1809 purely to placate the landowners Thomas Bruce and his son Charles. There is no functional purpose for this tunnel whatsoever, and there is no towpath for the boaters to use of the time. Instead, they used the chains along the walls here to pull themselves through. It would have been 500 yards of arduous work. So, just heading down to the western portal of the Bruce Tunnel, and just going to go under the railway here first. Now, for the eagle-eyed viewer, you'll note that when we were on the eastern portal, the railway was to our north, but now we're at the western portal, the railway is on our south. That's because the railway utilised the top of the tunnel to change its direction and running with the canal. Also, on top of the canal tunnel, there was a branch that branched off north towards Marlborough. That's a story for another day. And there is the very beautiful Bruce Tunnel. Anyway, enough of tunnels. Let's head on to Devizes for the main story.
Alright, you done the good bits yet?
Yeah. They're all good bits, aren't they?
Yeah, true, but what about the bits about the lock and the record?
True, but I was going to leave that till kind of midway, almost at the end of the video. Keep the viewers watching, you know?
Yeah, I suppose that does make sense. Well, in that case, in the meantime, let's see your plums.
My plums?
Yeah, your plums.
What, these?
No, not those plums.
Oh, okay. Well, what plums do you mean?
The app.
Oh, the app. Well, that would be Plum.
No, but if we both got the app, surely it's plural, it's plums.
Oh, good point. So recently Rebecca and I have been using an app called Plum.
Now, if you're anything like the two of us, we live to our means.
Now, running a YouTube channel can be a costly thing, as some of you may know. And if we have a good month, we tend to just reinvest it, or we end up spending it.
And that's where Plum comes in handy. It's a free to download app that helps you save easily.
Plum is great because it analyses your account, including your expenditure, your income, and it uses its brain to make calculations.
It then transfers small but regular amounts into pockets.
You can then make pockets specific to saving goals. So for example, holiday or Christmas, which is very, very poignant for us because we normally get to about 2 months to go and completely panic.
You can also set how much Plum puts aside based on the different modes like Shy Mode or Beast Mode.
Plum has got so many features you can choose to use. For example, it's got rainy days you could have on whenever it rains in your area. It sets aside a set amount of money for you. Or roundup, wherever you spend a non-even amount of number, it puts it up to the next pound and puts that amount away in a separate account for you, a pocket. For me, it's the best part is knowing you're saving without actually having to think about it. Plum is a trusted app with over 1 million downloads.
Which includes us.
Now, the best part is, if you download it using our link, it will pick one of you relevant to our channel and the link, and it will match your savings after 8 weeks, but you must use our link in the doobly-doo below. Right, I'm off to go and film the rest of the video.
Okay, okay.
I'll see you in a bit.
See you later.
So this is us approaching Devizes from the east. Now you may remember about a year ago we made a video about the town that was too high for its railway, Devizes. 50 years prior to the coming of the railway, the canal engineers had exactly the same problem, but they came up with something quite ingenious to overcome that issue. Have a look at Devizes on a relief map. As a market town with a castle built in 1080 AD, its roots lie in its geography. A settlement which sat 125 metres above sea level on a ridge overlooking to the west. So that's great if you're trying to defend your town, but what if you're trying to build a canal? Clearly you need some locks. Now locks weren't a new invention for canals, obviously. What was new was 29 of them over a 2.5 mile stretch, lowering the canal to the east by around 72 to 75 metres. Now that record of 29 locks in a single flight was soon beaten by the Birmingham and Worcester Canal, but what wasn't beaten was doing that over such a short distance and a greater height that the Devizes and the Caen Hill locks achieved. It's difficult to know why the lock stretch here was chosen over boat lifts and inclines, which were fairly popular at the time and were used in a number of different places around the country. Perhaps forethought of John Rennie, seeing that they didn't quite beat the lock, especially the failed lift and inclines at Somerset Coal Canal. Now the Kennet and Avon part funded the crazy caissons at Caen Hill, so maybe Rennie did indeed question their viability and stuck with the trusted lock here at Caen Hill. So between 1803 and 1810 the Kennet and Avon Canal was complete, apart from this section of the Caen Hill locks, and to connect those whilst they were building the Caen Hill locks they used a horse-drawn tramway, double tracked. In fact this bridge was built for them, or the underpass was built for the tramway. Now it always strikes me as a little bit of irony behind that, as with the Blissworth Tunnel they used a railway to connect either end of the canal, and they didn't have the forethought to think that the railways, in this case an ironclad wooden sleeper railway, which sounds very modern, they didn't have the forethought to think that that would eventually put these guys out of business. So you'll have noticed that the lock chambers are made from brick and a little bit of masonry. So the brick was made of clay dug from here between locks 29 and 35, and there's a huge pit just down here on the south side of the canal. Just take a look how vast this is. I've come to the bottom of this clay pit because I really wanted to see how deep it was, and I think I'm about 15 metres from the top, and that there is just thick bramble and vegetation, so I can't go any further. What a vast excavation this was, late 1700s, early 1800s, to build the bricks and line the canal. So to prevent flooding downstream, to prevent all of these locks running dry, they had to build a balancing storage at every lock on this Caen Hill stretch. And there's one just here next to this lock, obviously, lock number 31, just there. Now that's 0.3 hectares of surface area of lock. And what that did was, is it stretched the distance out between each lock. And it meant that indeed they didn't run dry and they didn't flood downstream, all whilst in use. So as the evolution of the canal moved forward and it kept up with modern technology, come 1829 they installed gas lights all the way along this flight. Now that would mean that you had to pay a shilling if you went overnight to use it, and that lasted until 1843. So what became of the Kennet and Avon Canal? Why did its fate not end up in the same way as any other canal down here in the south of England? What became of John Rennie's magnificent engineering achievement here at Devizes with the Caen Hill Locks? Well, the canal officially stopped in 1948, so you'd assume that perhaps, like the railways, the buses in modern transport, the car killed it off. But it did actually fall into disrepair a lot earlier than that, sort of 1840s, 1850s, when the coming of the GWR line really put a nail in its coffin. Back to modern era, the early 1990s, and the Canal Trust set up here a number of volunteers while they managed to open it back up again. And perhaps now it's taking its most valuable source of income to date, which is of course the tourist. God, you got here quick.
Well, you know what you're like. You've been waffling a lot, haven't you?
This is very true. Well, hopefully you guys have enjoyed that little presentation about the Caen Hill Locks. Been meaning to do this for a very long time because it's quite local and it's very beautiful.
It is, it's lovely.
Don't forget to sign up to Plum. How can they sign up to Plum, Rebecca?
In the doobly-doo or the pin comment below, hit that link.
Yes.
Download the app for free.
For free, and Plum will match one person chosen at randomly your savings for 8 weeks. As in the 8 weeks that you've been having the app and saving.
Yes, but only if you click on one of our links.
Yep. Right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm such a wally.
Yep. I'm not going to deny that, to be fair. No.
Okay. So we had all that opportunity yesterday to talk about the world record when we're out next to the canal, and I completely forgot. So 2008, 2009, my father owned a narrowboat. And he convinced somebody he knew at the BBC Wiltshire, to come out with us for the day or morning and attempt what we thought would be a world record of scaling the Caen Hill Locks, the 16, the immediate straight flight Devizes there, within that sort of half-mile stretch. And we did it within 1 hour 27 minutes with BBC Wiltshire sort of timing us. And I don't think it went into the Guinness Book of Records or anything like that, but 1 hour 27 minutes. So put a comment in the description below if you've beaten 1 hour 27 minutes.
Or if you've done it in an uber long time.
Yeah,
I mean, it went horribly wrong. We want to know your stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've done Caen Hill Locks, what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Right, so we'll see you next week.
Yeah.